We're going to talk about the end of the full-time work permission for international students. Here I am working from home and here live with you so we can talk about this in a month's time. Today's the 31st of May. In a month's time, things will change for international students in Australia. The temporary was always going to be temporary. The temporary relaxation of work limitations will end. So what we're going to do is talk about this. I just turned the comments off just so I can concentrate on telling you what's important. We opened a box of questions for you yesterday. If you had questions, we got a few questions I'm going to go through with you, but mainly we're going to talk about why this relaxation happened, why is it ending, how it's ending, and what it means to you if you're here in Australia and you're holding an international student visa. So since the dawn of time, the student visas had a work limitation on them. So students can work a limited number of hours. Why? Because the government wants students to focus on studying. They want you to primarily study, and incidentally, as a consequence of being here on a student visa, they want you to have access to some work rights. So for as long as I can remember, international students could only work part-time, so 20 hours a week. In 2016, that was rewritten and the condition said 40 hours a fortnight. So if you have a permanent job, you can work 40 hours a fortnight. That means 20 hours a week. Now, if you have a casual job where this week you may have a lot of work, if you work in a restaurant, the restaurant's busy, next week's not so busy, your boss can send you home, you can work more hours in one week, less hours in another week, as long as those 40 hours were distributed over that fortnight. Fortnight means 14 days or 2 weeks. Now, with the pandemic, many things that had never happened before happened in Australia, and one of them was the government changing this rule for the first time ever in the whole history of student visas in this country. And the government said in January 2020, international students can work as much as they want, regardless of which industry they're working in, the type of employment, if they have one job or 20 jobs, it didn't matter and still doesn't matter. Now, those changes started gradually. First, the government allowed international students in critical sectors such as healthcare and aged care to start working as many hours as they wanted. And that was still in 2021. Then in hospitality, because things got so complicated for hospitality workers in the industry, we didn't have any international students or backpackers coming into the country. So that became a problem. So then the hospitality and tourism industry was also added to a critical sectors list. By January 2022, even though the borders had reopened for international students in December 2021, by January 2022, it was still, not enough. There's not enough people to work in all sectors. So the government decided to remove the limitation for all international students and their family members. So it has been over a year now. We didn't know when it was going to end, but we knew it was going to end because it was always called a temporary relaxation. Now, with the current government, since they have come into power, late last year, they gave us a date. They said, okay, there is a date. It's going to end at the end of this financial year, which is the 30th of June. So the 30th of June is a Friday. From the Saturday after that, the 1st of July, we go back to having limitations. However, it's very important that you understand that those limitations are going to be different from what they were before. Now, where is your work limitation on your student visa? You need to look at the visa conditions attached to your visa. And that comes if you're the primary visa holder, if you're the student, your work limitation will be condition 8105. Now, if you are a secondary student visa holder, if you're married to someone who's studying, or if you're in a de facto relationship with someone who's studying, then your condition will always be 8104. Now, condition 8105 today is you can only work 40 hours a fortnight unless you are undertaking a master's by research or a PhD that requires you to undertake work, and then you can work full-time. Any other courses, master by coursework, an MBA, a post-graduation diploma, bachelor, trade, anything, you can only work 40 hours a week, fortnight. Unless your course is not in session, meaning it's a holiday, a school holiday in your course, or you have completed your course and you've got a little bit of time left at the end of your student visa. That means your course is not in session, you can work unlimited hours. So that is going to go back. The difference from the 1st of July is that instead of being 40 hours a fortnight, the condition is going to be rewritten and it's going to be 48 hours a fortnight, which again, in practice, 24 hours a week. So there's going to be 4 extra hours there, which it's not the best comparing to, at the moment, international students can work unlimited hours, but it's better than what it used to be. So that's what's going to happen to condition 8105. Now, one of the questions we received from someone was, will the changes apply to students in a master's degree and their partners? So I want to use this question to talk about the dependence on a student visa. So we get a lot of questions from people saying, I want to apply for a partner visa. And we think, okay, you're in a relationship with an Australian citizen or permanent resident, and they're in a relationship with someone on a student visa. In that case, you are going to get a student visa as a partner or a spouse. So people in this circumstance, they will always have condition 8104. Today, condition 8104 says you can only work 40 hours a fortnight. So there's no, unless your course is not in session, because there's no course. So that partner, that spouse, they don't have holidays, they're not studying. So they don't have that period during their holidays where they can work full time. They can only work 40 hours a fortnight, unless the student, the primary student visa holder, is undertaking a master's degree or higher. So if it's a master's by coursework, a master's by research, or a PhD, that partner or spouse can work full time. And that will continue. So answering the question from our follower who asked this question, partners will continue to be able to work full time if the student, the primary student, is undertaking a master's degree or higher. Now, those partners and spouses whose primary student is not, they are not undertaking master degrees. So when they're studying bachelor degree, vocational course, English course, then the partners will have the work limitation, and the work limitation will continue, but it's also going to go up to 48. So it's not going to be 40 hours a week, a fortnight anymore. It's going to be 48 hours a fortnight, so 24 hours a week. So until the end of the month, so we have the whole June, you can still work full time if you are the primary student or a secondary student visa holder, a partner, a spouse. But from Saturday, the 1st of July, it goes back to having limitations, but the limitation will be 24 hours a week instead of 20. What remains is, if you're the student, you can work unlimited hours on the course holidays or at the end of your studies, if you still have time left on your student visa. And if you are the partner or spouse of someone undertaking a master's degree or higher, you can work unlimited hours anytime. So that continues, okay? So not so very good news, but we knew the party was going to end eventually. So why did the government change these rules? Because they were desperate for skilled workers in any industry, even unskilled workers. And they continue to be. We still need workers in all industries. Now, what do you do if you have a full-time job, if your employer is desperate for people and your work limitation is going back to what it used to be? What do you do? What does your employer do? There's a few options, and that's something we wanted to talk to you about, and we got a few questions about that. Now, someone mentioned, what other options I have other than the 408 COVID visa? Now, this visa is also going to end, guys. We don't know when, but it will. Here at Bravo, we do a lot of research. We are always attending meetings and seminars with the Department of Home Affairs, with the Migration Institute of Australia. I myself am an examiner for the capstone exam, which is the entry level exam for people who want to be migration agents, and we present to other migration agents, CPGs and so on. So we're really always thinking about immigration law, and we have our theories. So we believe that the 408 visa may end in July. Because what is the point of getting students to go back to working limited hours and keeping a visa such as the 408 open where people can work full time? So the same reason why the government created this relaxation of the limitation for international students, it was because we need workers, and because of borders closed for almost 2 years, we didn't get enough workers coming into Australia on temporary visas, such as student visas and backpackers. For this reason, we also created the current version of the 408 visa. So let's talk about this visa a little bit. The 408 visa has always existed. It's a visa we use for artists coming to perform in Australia. There's an entertainment stream. There's a sports person stream, so people who come here to compete or train athletes. Ministers of religion who come in missions from a church and etc. And people doing research in universities. This visa has always existed with different streams, and it used to be called a different number, but in one format or another, this visa has existed for a while. When the pandemic hit, the government realized there's people here who are not going to be able to leave the country, their visas are expiring, and we don't want them to be here unlawfully. So let's create a stream under a visa that we can call it the COVID-19 stream, and we can use this stream so people can get some sort of emergency visa. And they chose the 408. So we have a stream under the 408 visa called Pandemic COVID-19, which is like an emergency stream. It started pure and simply as a visa to help people who couldn't leave the country and could not apply for any other visas, and this was for them to stay legally in Australia. So, for example, we had lots of parents of clients visiting, and all of a sudden, they were on tourist visas and they wanted to go home, but there were simply no flights to travel. In the beginning of the pandemic, like a lot of airports were closed. So they didn't want to be here unlawfully. So we applied for this visa for them to keep them here legally. As time went by, the government used this visa to keep people in the country with full work rights working in critical sectors. So first they started allowing people to apply for this visa to work in the health and aged care sector, then childcare, then hospitality. And then after that, they opened this visa for everyone since early 2022. Anyone in any industry can apply for this visa, and you get 1 year of full work rights, so you can stay here and work. Now, if we're bringing students down and limiting their work rights, why would we leave this visa open and then anyone can apply and work? So if we're, saying to students, okay, things are going back to normal, you're going to, focus more on your studies rather than working, it's probably going to affect the 408 visa, and we might see this visa being closed under the stream. The COVID stream might be closing soon. If it's not closed by July, it's going to be finished by the end of the year. So someone asked a question saying, if I want to continue work full time, what other options do I have other than 408 visa? And the natural option is, if you're working in your field or in a field that you started working in Australia and you have work experience, you should be considering the sponsorship visa. Now more than ever, because the government has already confirmed that by the end of 2023, there will be a pathway for permanent residence for everyone who's on a sponsorship visa, regardless if your occupation is in high demand, if it's an occupation in the medium and long-term skills shortage list, the MLTSSL, or if your occupation is on the short-term list. It's going to go back to how it was before 2018, which is the view of the Labour government. If you get a job here and you get a temporary sponsorship visa where you're here, you're contributing with your skills and tax paying in the country, the Labour government wants you to have a pathway for PR. Is it going to be forever? We don't know, but at the moment, that's what's going to happen, and we're all gearing up for this change to come at the end of the calendar year, 2023. So more than ever, if you don't want to go back to working limited hours, and if you can get sponsored, you should be thinking about it. Now, the person, her name is Suzanne, who sent us this question, she also said, what are the options if you don't have an occupation in any of the lists and you don't have any proven experience? Then you're in a bit of a pickle, because the sponsorship visa is part of what is called the skilled migration program. The skilled migration program is for skilled workers, meaning you need to have an occupation and you need to have skills. So if you don't have an occupation or skills, unfortunately, this program is not for you. So to be sponsored, you need to have a qualification in the same field as the position being offered to you here, or you need to have a lot of work experience to replace the qualification. In some cases, you need a qualification. If you're being sponsored as a doctor, a nurse, you can't just have work experience. You need to have, obviously, a qualification. Regardless, you also need to have at least 2 years of work experience. So you can't just be sponsored, come to Australia on a student visa, start a new career. So let's say you were an engineer in your home country, and then you start working as a restaurant manager while you're here studying, and then the restaurant owner wants to sponsor you. It may be possible if you have enough experience, if you have at least 2 years of full-time work experience or equivalent part-time, and if we can somehow connect your qualification to that occupation. But if you don't have enough proven work experience in a field, then the sponsorship visa is not the best option. But if you do, talk to us. We offer free assessments for people who have job offers in Australia. We check if you can get sponsored, because it's going to be a very good pathway to migration again. Also, there's something called the Aged Care Labour Agreement happening. Finally, aged care has never been an occupation that was possible to get a sponsorship visa under. And with the agreement coming into effect soon, aged care centers will be able to sponsor aged care workers. Now, for you to be sponsored as an aged care worker, you need 1 year of full-time work experience or 2 years part-time. So if you're here as a student and you are working in the aged care center, this could also be a very good pathway to permanent residence, because you can get the sponsorship and 2 years later get permanent visa as an aged care worker, now that this labor agreement is coming to fruition. So again, we can help you with that as well. If you don't have any work experience, you need to continue studying and hopefully get a graduate visa at the end of your studies, and then acquire work experience so you can get sponsored. Not every course allows you to get a graduate visa at the end. So again, get in touch with us so we can check if your studies would take you to a graduate visa. And if you have a little bit of work experience, or if you're finishing a course and you can't get a graduate visa, we can also look at a training visa. Australian employers can sponsor people on training visas. The training visa can be approved for up to 2 years, and it's a great way of acquiring the experience you need, so then you can apply for the sponsorship visa. It's a longer pathway, but again, the sponsorship visa is again a pathway for permanent residence. Yes, so I'm looking at questions that you guys are sending now. So I answered the question about no experience or no occupations. Again, it's a skilled visa program. You need to have skills. Someone has a question about Vetasis. It's a little bit off topic, but I'm going to answer to you. Looks like Vetasis is taking a long time. What should I do? I don't know. It doesn't look like we're working on your case, so I don't know if you send the right documents. I don't know if you are going to be approved. Normally what we do is we stay on the back of Vetasis and send what is called decision ready application, which means it's going to be processed quicker. Now, you're saying that you are working full-time and the company is waiting for your skills assessment to start the sponsorship visa. Look, I'm not sure if your employer is working with a migration agent, but a skills assessment is not necessarily required for you to apply for a sponsorship visa. Only a few occupations require a skills assessment. In the majority of cases, you don't need a skills assessment. So I bet you $50 your employer decided you needed a skills assessment and made you apply, or they're working with a not so experienced agent. So get in touch with us because you probably don't need this Vetasis. Another question, what about ABN work? ABN is, there's no difference. What happens with ABN when you're working in Australia, you either work as an employee, and in that case, you give your employer your tax file number, or you work as a contractor, in which case you have your own tax file number as a mini company and you provide services, and your employer pays you, instead of a salary, they pay you contractor fees. Regardless of how you work, the law is the same. You can only work what your student visa allows you. I know a lot of people believe that if I give someone an ABN, I can work as many hours as I want, but that's not the case. You would still be in breach of your visa condition. So until the 30th of June, you can work unlimited hours. After, even with an ABN, you can only work 24 hours a week or 48 hours a fortnight. And the last question for today, when the rules will start to be implemented? 1st of July. This is your day, the divisive day. From the 1st of July onwards, we go back to having work limitations. Alrighty, so that's me for today. Thanks for watching us. Get in touch with us if you have a job offer in Australia, if you want to continue to work full-time. Get your employer to get in touch with us as well. We also talk to employers and explain to them what it takes to get someone on a sponsorship visa. And if you want to discuss any other matters, we also have a visa action plan consultation to create a long-term strategy for you. Most cases, this consultation is only available if you are here already. So hope this has been useful. Thank you for watching, and I see you later.